Well, let's put it, I don't want to use the word highly educated because I'm sitting here with virtually no credentials whatsoever for what I do. But you have a whole bunch of credentials. What exactly? You're capable of doing managed discretionary accounts?
Well, my background has always been finance. And I took a Bachelor of Commerce degree at the University of Saskatchewan.
Well, did you?
In the 70s, I majored in finance. Of course, I was an oddball there because everybody at the University of Saskatchewan majors in accounting.
No, that's it. Are you from Saskatoon? Or from
no, actually, my dad was in the mining business in Manitoba, and I.
Were you up in Thompson or something?
Actually, Lynn Lake was the name of the town where I was raised, and my dad was in the mining exploration business with a company called Sherritt Gordon Mines, which was a.
We certainly know Sherritt Gordon Mines. In fact, the president was banned from the United States one time because he visited Cuba.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah. So I grew up there, and I worked underground in a mine as a powder monkey and a blaster. And I put myself through university at the University of Saskatchewan by working summers underground at the Fox Mine in Lynn Lake.
Oh, we were there. I thought maybe you just run down the road yesterday.
No, I was up there. It was a nickel mine, copper mine. And so I grew up there and left when I was 16, and I went to Notre Dame to play hockey with Per Murray in Wilcox, Saskatchewan.
Yes, Wilcox, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I spent 3 years with Per Murray.
Yeah. Was Norm Beaudin helping out there at all?
Gosh, I was there in the late 60s, so there's a lot of water under the bridge since those days. And then subsequently on to the University of Saskatchewan, and I majored in finance and
what year were you? You say the late 60s? Because I used to own the Fourth Dimension Coffee House in Regina.
I was there in 68, 69, 70.
5 years behind me, because again in Saskatoon I owned the Louis Riel for a short period of time. And that's where Joni Mitchell got her first paycheck type of thing. And we got all sorts of people like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back for Neil Young as well, and all sorts of them. Randy Blockman, Burton Cummings. So you went to Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
I actually attended St. Andrews College in Saskatchewan, in the University of Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I stayed in St. A's my first year in residence.
Did you?
I stayed in St. A's, and the College of Commerce building was just down the street a little bit.
Well, see, I've known you for half a year now, over a year now, and I didn't know that. It's amazing what you find together when you sit in your living room and got some cameras in.
And I spent 2 years there, and I was getting... I wouldn't say lazy, but you know how it is when you're sort of halfway through university. And then I decided to take a year off and travel Southeast Asia on a thumb. So I spent a year, gosh, in those days you backpacking around, living in youth hostels, from the slums of Kuala Lumpur to getting booted out of Lebanon at the point of a machine gun.
Well, one of the fellows that we had here a couple of weeks ago was talking about spending the month in jail in Turkey from one of his backpacking expeditions. So I guess you can run into some serious trouble when you're wandering around like that. But you didn't have any passos.
Well, it was you're a kid. You know, we're walking along.
Remember, your kids are going to be able to watch this. So
well, there wasn't anything. I was traveling with his girlfriend at the time, and we were walking along the promenade in Beirut. Nice waterfront, and they have a walkway and so forth. And there were pillboxes there, and I had a camera, and I came up to this guard and said, can I take a picture of my girlfriend? And so she's standing by the water, and he grunted at me, which I assumed was a yes.
But it was a no.
So I sit there and I'm snapping a shot, and all of a sudden, whack across the back, and I'm flat in my face in the ground, and this Peugeot pulls up, and this short, bald-headed guy jumps out with two military guys, and they come over and they grab me by the scruff of the neck, and I'm in the back of the car. And this fellow, fortunately, this fellow spoke English, and he says, "What are you kids doing out here? You know how dangerous it is. You don't go taking pictures around here." So they drove us back to the youth hostel, got our bags, and we were on a bus to Damascus in an hour. And
you've been kicked out of Lebanon.
We've been kicked out of Lebanon, yeah. And so came back and decided to. I should tell you, though, when I was, the decision to go forward was at the 1,000-foot level in a gold mine in Kalgoorlie. I worked in a gold mine in Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, and my job was to muck the shaft.
Yes, okay.
And I was down there at a midnight shift from 12 to 8 in the morning, and with a shovel, and I'd lower a bucket, and I'd haul out the muck. and put it in the pot, and they would lift her up.
Well, see, I was talking about a mining engineer today that was my client sitting over there in the corner who worked in Tanzania and Ely, Nevada this last year. So a lot of mining people around.
Yeah, as my dad used to say, was his entire career was in the mining exploration business. It's a small world. When I was in Australia, some of the fellows that my dad knew actually worked in the area for different mining companies.
Well, I'm going to tell you, does the name Hugo Dummett mean anything to you?
No.
Chuck Fipke?
Chuck Fipke, I know. I don't know him personally, but I know what he's done.
Chuck is the founder of Diamond.
That's right.
And Hugo Dummett is the fellow who financed him.
Right.
And Chuck was out on his last helicopter ride before with
who would have imagined
Hugo in the helicopter with him.
Yeah.
And they went on one extra ride. They were really close shutting down, and they went on one extra ride, and that's when Diamond was discovered, which is now Canada's.
And in those days, who would have ever imagined, other than Chuck Fipke, that there was actually diamonds in northern Canada?
Well, but Hugo was a geologist, and he was an Australian. And what I was about to say is that Hugo worked for me in 1973 and 74 as a tax consultant because he was a geologist, and you remember what happened when Davy Barrett got elected.
No more mining.
The mining business shut down in BC. And every geologist or every mining guy was looking for any job that you could get, so Hugo came to work for me as a tax consultant for a couple of years.
So you must have had a lot of seed stock in Diamond then.
I didn't have any. I even had Chuck. I didn't have any. His wife, Marianne, got most of it.
Yeah.
Of course, she nursed him through a really bad case of brain fever. He damn near died, and she deserved everything she got out of that part, I'll tell you. Yeah. So you're a mining man.
Yeah, I came back from a mining background, and it was fantastic in those days. I mean, to make enough money in the summer to put yourself through university, so it didn't cost my parents anything, and you could 4 months of summer work, and you could live pretty handsomely throughout the year as a university student. And I had taken my blasting certificate the first year I was there. So the first year, of course, you're packing powder in the sub-drifts, 50-pound packs, one on each shoulder, and you up the ladder and down the drift 400 feet, and then you load it. The second, when I took my blasting certificate...
When you load it, you're loading it in a pattern with all the drill.
Yeah, the drillers, what they do is in a tunnel, they'll drill a fan of holes, 180 to 200 feet deep, they call a ring.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you get up there and you got to get a hose, and you take either sticks of dynamite, or what we used to use was called a type of explosive called Amex, which was Canfo Amex, and you use a compressor loader. So you
CIL, I think.
Yeah. So what you do is you fill these holes with dynamite, and then you have to wire them up so
that they blow in a certain
a sequence. Yeah. So the first year I was the powder monkey. You need 400 or 500 cases of powder, 50 pounds of pop, into a subdrift. So you earn your money. But second year was fantastic because I had taken this blasting certificate. So I was the guy. I had the powder monkeys.
Now you were the guy that had the powder monkeys.
So I was the guy that had the powder monkeys packing the powder and loading the holes, and I would do the wiring up and then the blasting and so forth. So it was a fantastic way to put yourself through university. And for me,
you didn't come out as a mining engineer or a geologist. You went through university as a Bachelor of Commerce.
I went through a Bachelor of Commerce, and the cyclicality, being a mining family, the cyclicality of the mining business, as you just described. I mean, they lay off everybody, well, everything's bad, and then they hire everybody back. And my dad had said, well, he didn't say much. He just said, you do what you want to do. But I thought, I don't want to work underground. And in that town that I grew up in, most of the kids, by the time most of the girls were pregnant by the time they were 16, and most of the fellows ended up working in the mine. And out of that town, in my year, there was 2 of us that ever went on to university, which was a girl who grew up across the street from us, and she went on to become a pharmacist. And I don't know of anybody else, the kids that I grew up with, that ever went beyond the mining community.
I speak at a lot of mining conferences. I've done 15 mining conferences, or did 2 in January and February, and then I'm on Victoria.
Right.